we appreciate the opportunity to talk today. I am going to turn my camera off so you guys don't have to stare at my smile, and we can dive into the slides. Eduardo, feel free to go to the next slide, please. So some of the things I'm going to cover today pretty quickly because I want to get to the use cases for everybody that's joined us today. But I want you to know that the financial services general vertical for ALLOT is one of our key verticals. And we'll demonstrate that not only to give you some background on who we are if you're not familiar with us, but dive into some specific use cases. Next slide. So here are some quick facts about us with some growths. I think anytime anyone's choosing a vendor, you want to see stability. We've been in the industry for almost 25 years. We're a public company, as you can see. It says over 600. Last time I looked at employees, we're about 670, and we are a worldwide company. Again, we cater in two verticals. One is our communication service provider, and the other is the enterprise market. Next slide. This is a global just snapshot from a customer base. Some names you'll know, some you might, because again, it's across the world. But I just wanted to give you some idea of where we cater, and you can see some of them in the background of the other verticals. Next slide. One of the key elements that we know, and here's some quotes from Deloitte and IDC, is the standpoint of we see a number of our customers in the financial community migrating into a hybrid model. And so all I want you to think of is that we have that dynamic visibility, which is so key when you're in that hybrid model of having a trusted solution to tell you dynamically what is going on. And we'll demonstrate that more. Next slide. And in that, we've noticed there are certain challenges from the customer that we thought we'd point out to you from what we're hearing. And so, you know, one of them, again, in that hybrid is that visibility mode to the entire network. I call it data in motion that we show you. The other is, of course, is the assurance of that digital experience. And that's regardless if it's internal for employees or external for your customers. And the third element that we'll touch upon is some of the security solutions that we bring to light. Next slide. So when we look at traffic intelligence and our assurance platform, right, I think the key element for everybody today is the ability to control what's mission critical for you and optimize that for the experience on a regular basis. And then you'll also see in this presentation the ability to control maybe what's not mission critical to you. Next slide. Go ahead, Eduardo, one more. So here's the three mantras that we go by. You know, as far as you'll see if you hit our website, it'll be basically see, control, and secure. And then for today's presentation, I just picked some key elements of where we really dive deep for our clients and why they look at utilizing our solution. So it's not just the ability for visibility or control or troubleshooting, but even more important, getting into the aspects of policies and partitions to control what's mission critical, regardless of the number of transactions that you're doing. So we're quite familiar with the standpoint of wire transfers, you know, ABA numbers, general ledgers, and things of that nature. And then last but not least is the security elements. So we'll dive into that a little bit more on the DDoS and anti-malware. Go ahead, Eduardo. The two elements getting into that, again, we own what we call DART. So that dynamic actionable recognition technology, I just want to point out, is something key to us. And it deals with our ability when the world today is dealing with SSL, that we don't have to stop that packet and open up the header and look behind it to determine what is that application and then what type of policies. Our software can dynamically basically look in and already knows what that is that's flowing in the data. So there are some unique things that we offer that you might not have seen prior, which speeds up things and doesn't cause any latency, is what I really want to point out. And then the standpoint of what's important as far as dynamic queuing or optimization and acceleration. Those have been something that ALLOT has done well with for many, many years. Next slide. So we see decision making within our vertical of the financial group of wanting to have, we'll call it a dashboard, if you will, of what's important to their world. So even though we have hundreds of reports and hundreds of metrics and analytics and AI that we can provide to you, we allow also our customers a granular view where they can pick and choose what's important to them and have that on a dashboard to look at that behavior every day, and they can determine at what frequency all the way to real time. And when customers say, so I can just constantly see what's going on within the one dashboard of a number of variables, that attracts them very much from the granular view of what's happening within their network. And then also the ability to know if they even require more bandwidth to reach the performance levels that they want to have. And I also mentioned to you also regarding unsanctioned apps, so I call it the social apps that we can control. That is also key to when people see what is actually happening within the internal employee section of their office, and then having the ability to control that. From a monitoring standpoint, you notice I define RT, traffic management policy. So even if we're residing at a headquarters, let's say between your core router and switch, we're also measuring what that round trip is to branch locations that a bank or another organization or trading firm might have, to give you that metrics of the SYN app between the routers, so you can get a pretty good understanding per application of how are we performing within this model of our network, right? Next slide. And then from an attack standpoint, I mentioned that our software has different, we'll call it license embedded into it that we can turn on. One of them that I thought I'd mention today is our DDoS protection, and the fact that we can mitigate those attacks dynamically for you, usually within 7 seconds or less, and report on them as to how many you had, what time they happened, etc., etc. Next slide. I am now going to have the pleasure, I'll say, to hand this off to Eduardo. And for those of you who are not aware, you'll see David Marshall at the end of this presentation with my name to contact. David is local here as a pre-sales engineer. He's fantastic, but he had a family emergency. And thankfully, Eduardo is going to join us. He's actually from France, so don't let the accent alter you. I will assure you, Eduardo runs the pre-sales engineers globally. He is extremely technically astute. So even though you'll see the smile and the accent, he is a breath of knowledge, and I'm so excited that he is with us to help us out today. So Eduardo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you, Ron, for the invitation. So the idea today is that I wanted to give you a worldwide perspective of the specific use cases that we have for the finance institutions, specifically with banking assurance. And I want to give you some insights and examples from other regions. But at the end, I would like to focus on one specific customer in North America region. So before I start with the use cases and be a little bit more hands-on of what are the capabilities on, or what is the experience of rolling out an ALLOT solution, here I will present a quick overview of the big IT infrastructure that we have with different finance institutions. So it's not just that. Well, it depends of the type of customers. Of course, we will have the multiple branches, ATMs that are connected to the SD-WAN and then to the data center. But also we are seeing more and more banking, online services, working from home, etc. So I want to deep dive on different aspects of the architecture, and then I will show you what the rollback will be, what is the experience of having this kind of solutions running on-premise or in the cloud. So if I deep dive a little bit, what is the trend that we see worldwide is that, well, since last year, we see less offices and more online services. So what does it mean basically? So what we want to achieve at the end is to assure the high digital experience for online banking transactions. So what are the challenges? That sometimes users or our customers, they cannot meet the SLA with the customers. So what does it mean? It means that, okay, they roll out their bank online services, but then the interesting part of our solution is that we can color this kind of traffic. So what does it mean? It means that for these external customers, so I'm not focusing just on the internal employees, but it's external customers that are using the online banking services. When we integrate with the web authentication, so we can color the transaction. So what does it mean? It means that for every single transaction, we know who is behind that. So then we can manage better or boost the performance. So for instance, if there is no congestion, everybody will get the same experience. But in case of peak, in case that they need to, well, there is a specific event, they need to load a specific amount of transactions, or well, something is happening on the network and there is congestion, unfortunately, then because we color this type of transactions, we will give this is an expression that we have from the service providers world, that okay, the gold customers or the premium customers will get better experience, but the regular customers will be able to connect, but not with the best experience that they have. So if I give you an example of what does it look like when actually we roll out these kind of solutions in the network. So here, this is what the experience will be. So once the IT guys from the financial institution, they need, so what we say that they need to do informed decisions is because they have the capability to log into the console and actually understand the web experience for this specific online applications. So in this case, so we have in the quick overview, is the typical scorecards where we can say, okay, we have internal or external customers. And as I said, we can color them based on the profiles, if they are premium customers or just regular customers. We can see that normally without congestion, in this example, we see that more of the 30,000 employees, they are having excellent experience when they are accessing the web applications. But then we have 310 at the end, I don't know if you can see it on the screen, that are suffering with bad experience. So which insights we can have here? So we can anticipate issues before they become problems. So actually with this type of dashboards that we can have for this kind of banking applications, we can understand what the users are feeling. This is what I say, the experience, and then take actions. And then I will show you which kind of actions we can take. So this kind of dashboards will explain or give you the insights, what we call the banking web trends, meaning that, okay, we are understanding and measuring the web applications for banking specific or trading, etc. But if suddenly there is one of these kind of applications that become popular inside of the network. So we had a customer like this last week that suddenly TikTok traffic was on the top 5. So these kind of insights will pop up in our business intelligence platform, and then it will give you a heads up to the network admin to say, hey, watch out, there is a new application, and that can affect the experience of the users. Okay, so this is one of the things, one of the first use cases that we can see with our platform. Second, what we can see is that the most important part is that it depends on the network infrastructure, of course. Now we move to another part of the network. So in this case, the idea is to gain full visibility and control into the remote branches or data centers. So what are the challenges that we can see? But lately, most of our customers are changing their WAN or the internal infrastructure, moving from the typical MPLS to DIA, so dedicated internet access. But doing these changes and introducing SD-WAN nodes and so on, they lose, so they cannot guarantee this experience between branches. They will just have limited capacity and can be able to manage this high number of policies for all sites. So this is the typical challenges that we can see, that they cannot actually prioritize or boost the incoming traffic. So how we kick in here is because just with the typical implementation of our solution, we can guarantee this end-to-end visibility, the quality of service, and as Bob mentioned before, the troubleshooting. So what are the solution highlights in this case? And I think this is very important with one of our customers, is to prioritize the data in motion, as Bob mentioned, with regards to the general ledger, wire transfers, and important, provide this real-time analytics. And last but not least, they can minimize the latency if they have. Of course, the networks are amazing, new technologies, but sometimes we can find latency and slowness. So the idea is to minimize this and have and guarantee the same service level for the branches. So if we log into the console and check how this will look like, okay? So I will just zoom in when the IT manager connects and wants to give this visibility of these branches. So actually this comes from one of our customers as well. I was listening from the previous presentation. This is a bank as well in Spain, okay? Where, well, this kind of visibility tools or business intelligence that we have, we can give you just quick insights of the remote branches experience. So this is what we see on the different colors. If they are red, is that maybe this specific branch is having a less bad experience. The circle size is the volumetry. So it's what is the amount of traffic that you have per branch, and then we can have a performance overview. But like this, having this quick overview of your different branches and the network, then we can act fast. So this is once we understand, we pinpoint the issue, then we can see where is the problem, and then the correction. So this is one of the things that I want to highlight at the end of the presentation. And then last but not least, so if we come back to the typical architecture, overall architecture from the customers, we also see that many of them. So of course, we have many of our colleagues on the panelists today. So we have AWS and cloud services, VMware, etc. So we can see that there are many customers that are, well, they have their on-prem applications, but we see that they are migrating their important applications like trading applications to gain more computing and etc. They migrating to the public cloud. So actually we have a specific suite that we are going not to introduce latency or anything when they are doing this kind of transactions, but we can give them this visibility that at the end, when they connect, they want to be reassured that what they are paying for is what they are getting. So this is actually one of the SLA performance reports that we have, and we will accompany them when they do this kind of migration. And as Bob mentioned before, we can see that more and more when we expose these banking applications to the world, there is some kind of well, we are increasing the exposure surface. So they are seeing more and more denial of service attacks. So as part of the licensing of our solution, they can enable this protection in order to prevent the degradation of the experience, and then we can assure the excellent performance for the online banking online services. So this is at the end one of the use cases that we can have with our solution. So how we do this? So we can have different kind of our solution could be part of physical appliances, and we have some customers that still like to have the appliance, or they can have the virtual edition where they can run everything that we have on a virtual environment, or actually we invest on the cloud edition where we have cloud native applications where we can help them with this migration. So well, this is just the different platforms that we have for the network intelligence. So to finalize today, I wanted to share with you some of our success stories, case study. with the North American Tax Collection Agency. So what is the headline of this specific case study? Is actually how we were able to do the quality of experience assurance and SLA enforcement. So this is one of the things that I was referring before. So what is the typical challenge, as I said, is that, well, they have several customers, they sign strict SLAs with them, depends on the profiles, okay? And then they want to be sure that they meet these SLAs, and they need to give them the reports if there are outages on the network. But with the previous situation or the previous solutions that they have, they are not able to do that. What happens afterwards is that they need to generate daily or weekly user experience reports, and it's very cumbersome with what they have, where they are trying to analyze all these applications or this performance in order to get a single pane of view to get this specific report. So, well, those were the challenges. So let's see how we can, what was the solution we put in place, and then afterwards we are going to wrap up and have the key takeaways of the solution. So if I may, I will just explain how we did this SLA enforcement in action. So what is the typical rollout of the solution? Is, well, once we are in the network, what we are going to do is to analyze first. We are going to set some specific timeline, let's say 1 week, to just be pure monitoring mode, understand the branch analytics or user analytics. So in this case, for this specific customer, we run our solution for 1 week, and what were the traffic trends after 1 week or a typical day? Is that one specific application, like in this case, well, believe it or not, they were using Lotus, and this kind of communication was just saturating the link. So what happens is that, okay, we see that this application is taking all of the bandwidth, but actually the important online data in motion financial transactions were being slowed. So what happens is that after the week, we apply specific changes. So those were the recommended changes in order to free some space, so to free more resources, doing a more bandwidth dynamic allocation. So we will be able to free the web online applications and actually improve the experience. So this is how we do the SLA enforcement in action, and then monitor actually the recommended changes. The second thing, it was how we did this quality assurance and what will be the quality assurance in action. So again, it's basically, well, not the same, but what kind of. So what does it mean? It means that for one specific banking application, including the transactions, users were complaining that it was too slow. So again, what we do is to roll out the solution, gather these analytics, and understand. So we have specific metrics where we can evaluate the specific quality of experience scores based on the latency, the retransmissions, the response, the server response times, etc. So this kind of experience metrics, we are going to analyze them and then give them a score. So the score typically is from 1 to 5, when 1 is a very bad experience, 5 is excellent experience. So in this case, this specific customer for this specific web application, well, starts Monday with an excellent experience, but then Tuesday to Friday is like, well, regular. It's not the best experience, but it's kind of not so good all the time. So it's not very consistent. So what we do is then, after we apply this kind of changes, and then we boost the application and accelerate the traffic. So what we do, what we can compare the next week, is that the same users using the banking application and doing the metrics gathering and analysis, and then we can understand that, okay, now we can give them a consistent experience, even though there are other applications or other traffic that is running on the network. So this is basically how we will do the quality of assurance in action, and this is what we did with this specific customer. So just some key takeaways, and I don't know, Bob, if you want to say something extra.
No, I think this is really just letting the audience know where we focus on the visibility and the optimization. Yes, there's a granular, I'll call it philosophical approach to the optimization point of us learning what's mission critical, non-mission critical, based on each day and time of week. But it is flexible, is what the audience should realize.
Great. So just remember key takeaways: foster customer engagement, boost efficiency, protect credibility, of course. That's also a great add-on that we have. And one of the biggest advantages of the solution is that because we run in very high demanding environments like telcos, service providers, or big governments, the solution is scalable and, well, it has a great performance. So this is the thing that I wanted to say at the end.